and therefore the production volume and the capacity of protective garments or suits have been ensured. Now we can satisfy the needs for protective suits. Every day, the number of protective suits that we coordinated has already been more than 250,000 sets, exceeding the need in Hubei. Now the number of cases is being reduced, yet we are still at a critical stage of epidemic containment, and the production of protective suits should not be slackened. For the next step, while ensuring the needs are satisfied in Hubei province, we also need to pay attention to the needs in other localities. We are also guiding the businesses to follow the latest developments and adopt a flexible approach to increase their effective supply. We are also aware that the epidemic is occurring in some other countries in the world, and they also faced with a shortage of protective suits. China is a major producer of such protective suits, and we encourage the local companies to try their best to satisfy the global needs so that we can make a contribution to the global efforts against the epidemic. Okay, let's continue. On the left, on the second row, the second reporter, please. From China Media Group, CCTV. My question is about the equipments. We would like to know that in the treatment of the epidemic, what are the high-end medical devices and equipments are utilized, and how are they transported to Wuhan? And also the treatment of the critically ill cases remains to be a challenge. So what about the next step plan? And we will have DG Mao to answer the question. Okay, thank you for your question. In the COVID-19 clinical treatment, the previously well-known equipments like respirators, ECMOs, and P3 mobile laboratories, and etc. These high-end equipments are put into use, and they play a very important role. These equipments are provided or brought with them by the various medical teams who rush to Wuhan to offer help. And also we have the national coordination to transfer such medical equipments to Wuhan and the Hubei province. The respirator and the ECMO are used to provide respiration support to the critically ill cases. And the P3 mobile laboratory is used for the makeshift hospitals, as these laboratories are mobile and can easily satisfy and fastly satisfy the testing needs. The mobile or the bedside CT scanner is very flexible and convenient for usage, so they can provide immediate access to CT scanning. As far as I know, the bedside CT scanner only takes 3 minutes to accomplish a chest scan. So these equipments are very helpful in the clinical diagnosis and the treatment. For the next step, according to the arrangement of the State Council's joint mechanism, we are going to further utilize the medical equipments and mobilize the equipments, distribute them among the hospitals in need. Let's continue. On the right, on the second row, the third reporter, please. The lady over there. Thank you. From the cover.cn. My question is about health. We know that with the work resumes, now we have the new approach of the health QR code, especially in Henan and Zhejiang provinces. So I would like to know the mutual recognition of the health code. Thank you for your question, and we will have DG Luo to answer your question. Thank you for your question. For this year's fight against the epidemic, we do enjoy a fairly favorable tool, that is the big data. According to the overall arrangement of the State Council, the IT companies are mobilized to adopt big data and the information technology to facilitate the epidemic control and containment. And such information is used to monitor the latest developments and provide trend analysis.
We collaborated with different ministries and departments and local governments and scored phasal achievements. For example, for the mobile users, there are online checks. Once the consumer has authorized the checks, then they can check the information about the provinces and places they've visited in the past 15 days. Ali and Tencent have also launched certain apps for health information checks, and these have provided fast permits for those who want to go back to their workplaces. The interprovincial sharing of the information have also provided convenience to those who want to go back to their workplaces. In the monitoring and the usage of the data, we emphasize on the compliance with privacy protection laws. We ensure the protection of personal privacy and prevent against the leakage or the abuse or misuse of personal data. Thank you. Next question, please. Journalist from the third row on the right side. Thank you. With CCTV, I have a question on ECMO. We know the medical device plays an important role in the treating of grippal ill patients. So what is its role? Is Wuhan and Hubei province still under shortfall of supply of ECMO? I'd like to first ask DG Luo to give his answer, and I'd like to ask DG Mao Qun to provide additional remarks, if any. Thank you for your question. Indeed, it's an important question. ECMO, the extracorporeal membrane oxygenation machine, can provide cardiorespiratory function support to the critically ill patients according to version 6 of treatment. On the critically ill and severe patients, ECMO is recommended for saving of the vital signs. Since the outbreak of the epidemic, in particular with the rise of confirmed severe cases and critically ill patients, Hubei and Wuhan have an increasing needs of ECMO. On 27th of February, the Central Government's work group has made it clear that ECMO needed to be allocated from across the country to Hubei and Wuhan to ensure that we try all the means to last the life of severe patients. Ministries and localities have tried all the means to allocate ECMO to Hubei. Recently, 67 ECMO devices have been allocated to Wuhan and Hubei. We urgently procured ECMO devices and transferred them to Hubei. Besides, on 27th of February, ministries and departments collaborated with each other, and within 15 hours, 16 imported ECMO from Frankfurt of Germany were transported to Wuhan and Hubei province. NDRC and National Health Commission made great efforts to realize the provision of ECMO. They have allocated urgently ECMO that can be found in China, and also those medical assistance teams, when they went to Wuhan, they brought with them ECMO devices. In general, the provision of ECMO helped the saving of the gravely ill patients. And down the road, we will continue with the allocation of ECMO devices. We are thinking of importing another tranche of ECMO devices to Wuhan. We have been following closely the actual use of ECMO devices, and we further facilitated efforts in both domestic allocation and international importation. I'd like to ask DG Mao Qun'an to make some additional remark. I'd like to make some additional remark based on DG Luo's comment. Yes, indeed, as we send medical teams to Wuhan and Hubei province, many hospitals and medical teams have brought with them ECMO machines. However, it was pointed out that ECMOs are still in urgent needs. From the very beginning, we communicated with the hospitals that were under direct management of National Health Commission, and we made urgent allocation of 10 ECMO devices to Wuhan. We know across different provinces there are severe and critically ill patients, so it's fair to say that many hospitals need ECMO. But still, at the front line of the battlefield in Wuhan, there were further needs arising, so we asked different provinces for help. We did some analysis. We knew it was a difficult job because provinces had their own critically ill patients to be saved. So we discussed with different provinces. We sent out the notices of ECMO need to different provinces, and we thought if we still fail to meet the needs from Wuhan, and then we will contact them all and try everyone on the contact list. The notice was sent out on the evening of the previous day, and on the second day, my colleague sent me a message. He said, DG Mao, you don't have to worry. You don't have to call the provincial governors. We plan to allocate 10 ECMOs from different provinces, but from provinces across the country, we received the help from provinces. They say they want to donate 30. I was impressed and overwhelmed. I knew back then that provinces had their own critically ill patients to treat. They also need the ECMO, but still they want to help. So now we have already allocated 10 ECMOs to Wuhan, and we have 20 ECMO at hand. If any other province needs, the 20 ECMOs can also be distributed to them. So I'd like to take this opportunity to thank all those who have been lending their support in this special time. Yes, indeed, we stand united to ensure the needs are met. I'd like to thank the advantage of our institutional arrangements, which has made this possible. Thank you. Next question, please. Journalist from the third row on the left side, please. From Economic Daily. We know many medical teams have brought with them the rescue devices when they went to Wuhan. The resources and the devices played an important role in rescuing life of patients in Wuhan. What were those specific roles? And by taking away these devices, will that dent the normal operation of the hospitals that have lent out these devices? I'd like to ask DG Mao Qun'an to take the question. Yes, as I've mentioned, these medical teams brought with them the medical devices to Wuhan, which played an important role in rescuing patients, including respirators, ECG monitors, and ECMOs and others. They played an essential role in rescuing the lives of patients in Wuhan. And the Hubei province, we know at the front line of this battle, there were many critically ill patients. Without such devices, the medical workers would have been under much greater pressure. And for the future, with the coordinated arrangements from the central government, will discuss with Hubei province as to how can we bring out the full role of these medical devices. We need to equip the frontline medical workers with better devices.
Let's continue on the right, on the fourth row, the lady reporter. Thank you. From People's Daily and Health Times, we know that protective suits are especially important for the medical professionals, and the production facility is really necessary. So my question is for MIT and how to ensure the adequate supply of such production device or equipment. Thank you for your question. Indeed, for medical protective gowns, the needs are growing. And up to now, it is still one of the top priorities for ensured supply. And indeed, the production facility you are mentioning are the bottlenecks for the production. This is Plowder. As previously, the producers of the Plowder were off work and off production, so there was a short supply of the Plowder, and we found it a big challenge to ensure the adequate supply of the Plowder. But we have the belief that the Plowder should not become the bottleneck for the production. So we have made every effort to increase the supply of the Plowders, and it is fair to say that in early February it was in severe shortage, but in mid-February the supply has increased, and now we can say that it is adequately provided and it can satisfy the production needs. In terms of work resumption, on the one hand, we make full use of the existing production capacity. We quickly got a survey to learn about the existing production capacity. So together with the relevant provinces and the working under the joint control mechanism of the State Council, we encourage the businesses to resume their production. And on the other hand, for other necessary supports for work resumption, we are making efforts to help the producers. For instance, we have sent dedicated staff to Guangdong province and work on site to encourage and mobilize the production capacity. We do have SMEs and producers who have demonstrated they are competence and they are devotion. For example, one company in Guangdong has made every effort to produce the Plowder. Now, by early March, there have been about 1,200 Plowders produced, satisfying the production needs of the protective suits. Also, companies have made positive response to the call, and in about 2 weeks, these companies have already produced 360 plowder machines. Even though the produced plowders cannot satisfy the growing needs for production, we have therefore call on the relevant companies and government agencies to mobilize the capacity. As you may have already been aware, we have called on the society to make contribution to the plowder production. So there are producers who previously produced tents or other materials are now shifting their production to the plowder production and the protective suits production. So this is about the supply. On the transportation side or the delivery side, in the light of the severe shortage in early February, we made every effort to coordinate the delivery in order to ensure the needs in Hubei province are satisfied as a top priority. So we have made overall planning and considered the local conditions for transportation and delivery. So it is fair to say that up to now, with all the potential channels mobilized, now we have 4,300 plowder machines working around the clock. The daily production capacity of the plowder is on average 150 sets. So every day we are able to produce about 600,000 protective suits to satisfy the needs. So it is fair to say that the current production can satisfy the need. However, we will continue to monitor the latest developments and make every effort to encourage production and ensure the supply. Thank you. Let's continue on the left. On the second row, the lady reporter, please. Thank you. From China Media Group, CNR. We noticed that the medical supplies in stock or the inventory of the medical supplies can only satisfy the need for a short period of time. So with this epidemic, any planning for future long-term stockpiling of medical supplies? We will have DG Mao to answer your question. Thank you. Indeed, the emergency inventory, it is really necessary for the epidemic. In responding to the epidemic, we do find some weaknesses or shortcomings in terms of the inventory. For example, how can we do a better job with the emergency response inventory, the supplies inventory? So the NHC is working together with the relevant agencies to make future plans. We have studied the existing emergency response inventory mechanism, and I think it is really necessary for future plans. Let's continue. On the left, on the fourth row, the first gentleman over there. Thank you. From China Media Group, from the new media. We know that in Wuhan, the critically ill cases are treated, and such treatment is at a crucial stage. There are 2 hospitals, Leishenshan and Huoshenshan, respectively, dedicated to the treatment of the critically ill cases. So how about the situation there? We will have DG Mao to answer your question. Thank you. I think it is fair to say that the adequate supply of the medical materials or the supplies is the prerequisite of a successful fight against the epidemic. So with the overall coordination and arrangement of the State Council, we can find some improvement. And it is fair to say that the supply and the demand is now in a balance. And we are also closely following the latest developments in the front line and make every effort to ensure the adequate supply. Okay, let's continue. On the right, on the fifth row, the third gentleman reporter there, please.
With Phoenix TV, since the outbreak of the epidemic, the government has been updating the diagnosis and treatment protocol, as you've mentioned, already to the 7th edition. I'd like to ask about the supply of the drugs and the devices that are recommended by this protocol. I'd like to ask Madam Cao Xuequn from MIIT to take the question. The diagnosis and treatment protocol and the experts' opinions and suggestions have been guiding our efforts of allocation. 30 plus drugs, 70 plus TCM tablets and liquids are under dynamic monitoring daily. Alpha interferon hormone drugs, testing kits, and other key products can meet the needs from frontline in Hubei and in Wuhan. TCM drugs, tablets, and liquids are also under normal production with adequate inventory. Since the Spring Festival break, we've been supporting relevant manufacturers to resume their production, dealing with issues on the transportation, the coming back of the workers. 6 manufacturers have resumed the production of chlorine phosphate with an adequate market supply. And chlorine phosphate that has been transported to Hubei can meet the needs of 150,000 person times. Abidol's production is also in normal production capacity, which can meet the clinical needs. And in the future, we will do an active job in connecting the supply with the demand, in particular the drugs. In particular, we will look at the research progress of experts on products and drugs with a good efficacy and organized production. We are confident and we are capable of meeting the therapeutic drug needs in Hubei and across the country. Thank you. Next question, please. Journalist from the second row on the right side with the CCTV, the financial channel. Designated hospitals and the temporary hospitals have seen many vacant beds, but are patients still waiting for the treatment from the medical devices? What about the quarantine and isolation centers? Are these centers well equipped with medical devices? I'd like to ask DG Mao Chuan to take the question. Currently, we've guided Hubei province and established standard on medical supply equipment at different types of health institutions, so there are no worry. There aren't patients who are waiting for the treatment provided by the devices. Previously, there was a short span of time where Hubei was in dire shortage of medical supplies, but now it is balanced, including the isolation and quarantine centers. They are equipped with needed and standardized medical devices. Thank you. Next question, please. Journalist from the 5th row on the left side, please. Thank you. Dragon TV. We know it is urgent for us to treat the gravely ill patients. However, we know normally hospitals need to go through procedures before the medical devices can arrive the institutions. What are the special measures we've adopted to ensure the faster track? I'd like to ask DG Mao Qian to take the question. As you know, medical institutions have to go through procedures for the procurement of medical devices, in particular, the expensive, sophisticated medical devices. In face of this epidemic, Ministry of Finance has responded immediately and issued the notice on facilitating the convenience of medical device acquisition. For the acquisition of the medical devices targeting at the epidemic response, a green fast track was established, ensuring hospitals and health institutions can procure the needed medical device as quickly as possible. And this notice has played a very positive role, ensuring the needs of treatment were met immediately. We can only take the last two questions. Journalist from the fourth row on the left side, please. Thank you. With Beijing News. Previously, patients in Hubei said they asked for ambulance, but the ambulance arrived. It was not a negative pressure ambulance. What about the situation now? I'd like to ask DG Luo Junjie from MIT to take the question. From the very beginning of the epidemic outbreak, as indeed there was a shortfall in negative pressure ambulance, which has caught attention from the general public. At the deployment of the Joint Prevention and Control Mechanism, the Joint Task Force agencies organized the manufacturers to work at full capacity. We've organized Shanghai Volkswagen and the bike company to the automakers to manufacture negative pressure ambulances. Bottlenecks were addressed because that was during the Spring Festival break. The human resources and the supplies needed were under great pressure, but we raised against the times, and we overcame difficulties of understaffing and undersupply of the raw materials. The manufacturing time was 30 days, but within 15 days, 244 negative pressure ambulances were manufactured and sent immediately to the front line. This was an unimaginable and amazing achievement. Per capita, per day manufacturing was already over 2,000 for key manufacturer, automaker. With the joint efforts from various parties and stakeholders, the negative pressure ambulance need in Hubei province was basically need. Upon the establishment of Huoshanshan and Leishanshan Hospital, 20 plus negative pressure ambulance were transported to the two hospitals, and several days later, 300 plus negative pressure ambulances were transported to Hubei. Many automakers and manufacturers tried all the means to transport the ambulances to Hubei and Hebei, Henan, and in other provinces. 40 negative pressure ambulances crossed a total mileage of 2,000 kilometers overnight and arrived at Hubei province because the traffic police have been working day and night around the clock. But as of yesterday, negative pressure ambulances totaled 960, and they were for 17 cities and counties and prefectures, meeting the needs of Hubei province. And during the process, we've issued notices and collaborated with National Health Commission and emphasized on the product safety and post-sale services to ensure the negative pressure ambulances are of very good quality and can deliver good services. Last question, journalist from the third row on the right side, please. Thank you. With Chengdu Red Star News. To respond to the epidemic, manufacturers have stepped up their capacity to produce medical devices to meet the needs of health institutions. And after the epidemic is ebbing and over, will there be a redundancy? I'd like to ask DG Mao Quan to take the question. In the epidemic response, governments at different local governments have procured a large volume of medical devices, and these are in designated hospitals and other hospitals in Wuhan and Hubei. After the epidemic is over, the Central Working Group has guided NDRC to work along with the Hubei province to work out a plan to use the medical devices so as to make an overall holistic arrangement and scientific allocation of the resources.
This is also a chance to improve the medical equipment in the local hospitals. Okay, that's all for today's Q&A. We will have the expert to give us the health tips. We will have Dr. Gong. Thank you. Recently, everybody is in a new environment, that is to work and study from home. And there might be some problems with the hearing. And previously, we've answered some questions about the ear diseases or hearing problems, like the dizziness or loss of hearing. Now, it is not so convenient to go to the ENT clinics or departments. So how can we protect our hearings and our ears? So let me offer some health tips. First, we should live regularly. During the epidemic, people stay at home and work from home, and they may have changed their previous life schedule. For example, some people stay up to very late, and they may find the ear or the hearing has some problem. At the moment, we are not very clear about the causes of such symptom, but as far as we know, fatigue or some weakening of the immune system can all lead to the tinnitus. So try to sleep more and take more rest. Otherwise, you may find the problem of tinnitus or hearing loss. So this is very important. Rest is very important. And secondly, in our daily lives, we should control the noises. Now, people are using more and more household electronic appliances. The electronic appliances make our lives convenient, but they may also cause noises. So we should try to minimize the noise level. Once you finish the use of the electronic appliances, you need to turn off the appliances. And also, when you watch TV or taking phone calls, try to lower the volume. And thirdly, use the earphones appropriately. Earphones have become daily necessities, especially for the young generation. However, the long-time use of earphones will cause damage to your hearing. So when you are at home, when you listen to the music, attend online courses, or even doing homework, you may want to put on the earphones. However, long-term use of the earphones will cause problems with your ears, like the damage to the hearing. So our suggestion is to rationally use the earphones. If you put on the earphones no more than 30 minutes as a goal, and do please take some break after every 30 minutes of earphone use, and the overall daily use of earphone should be controlled under 3 hours. And also, when you are in a quiet place, wearing earphones does not cause big damage. However, if you wear the earphones in a noisy environment, such practice will also do damage to your hearing. And also, the excrements in the ear can protect your ear. However, some people may want to get rid of the earwax. However, improper handling of the earwax will cause damage to your hearing. So try to avoid to get out of the earwax. Furthermore, there might be infections inside your ear, and as the epidemic is going on, it is not so convenient to go to the ENT department. So you may need to make a judge here to see whether it is necessary to go to the ENT clinic or department. For example, you have the underlying condition of ear problems. And if the problem does not get worse, you can continue your previous treatment with appropriate medication. However, if the problem gets worse and the infection becomes more severe, and also the symptom gets worse, like the excrements of the infection change and you suffer more pains, then you should go to the ENT department immediately. So this is a necessary decision you have to make. Also, try to take more rest and avoid being fatigued. Ensure adequate supply, adequate intake of nutrition, and also take good management of your chronic diseases. In the epidemic, we have the elderly who are suffering from other underlying conditions like hypertension, high blood pressure or hypertension, or other chronic diseases. And also, they may get anxious because of the epidemic. So they may have symptoms like headache or the sudden hearing loss. So if you have such symptoms, you should go to seek medical advice immediately. Otherwise, if the treatment is delayed, it may cause irreversible consequences. And yesterday, it was the day for ear health, and the theme for this year's Ear Health Day is protect your hearing. So we hope that even though we have the epidemic, you can still ensure your adequate ear hearing. Thank you, Dr. Gong. For tomorrow's press conference, the theme will be about the spring plowing or agricultural production in the spring. We will have officials from the Ministry of Agriculture to touch upon this topic. Thank you for coming today, and that's all for today's press conference. Thank you.